friends, Happy New Year. This is Sarah May, and I have an episode for you that will hopefully help as you begin this year. And it's called Sticktoitivness. So this is for that period of time when you're just not sure what to do, but nothing is changing, and you're just trying your hardest and something better happens soon, or else you just might give up. So whether you're on a new health kick and you're just not seeing dramatic results, or maybe you're attempting to pursue a whole new career, often the most difficult to surmount is the master of disguise, the plateau. Oh, the old plateau. It will make you look at your life pretty much like you have failed. And if you stare at it long enough, you'll start to get antsy. So you might start to think that a change of course is needed. Like you haven't seen progress for quite a while and something must not be working. Or maybe it's me. Or why did I even think I should try this in the first place? This just isn't right. Or my favorite, I never had a chance of success in the first place. So it's this window of time, the plateau, that I would argue is the most difficult challenge you will ever face. It's not the last leg of the race that tricks you into stopping. It's this time, when literally the only piece of advice you need is keep going. It's this advice that's also the hardest to follow, especially when it comes to pursuits that are new, that require you go out on a limb and jump. So if this is you, I'm writing this to give you a much needed push in the same direction. And it's also right. I'm writing it to myself. So I feel like whenever I have something I need, I want to deliver it to you as well. So think of it like a large gulp of Gatorade and just listen to the sound of my voice and keep running. I know it's not fun anymore and you don't feel successful, but there was a very good reason you started this run, and now it's time you trust that instinct and keep going. Just trust your own original gut and power through. And the plateau ends. So your path will eventually run to a bend. And once it does, you'll be able to see the finish line in the distance. You'll just be able to see where you are and how far you've come. So success is the result of, yes, original thinking and talent, but more so of stick-to-itiveness. There have been many before you who have had the same inspiration, the same idea, the same talents, but the pudding goes to the one who perseveres, who keeps going because they want it, and who runs the length of the plateau because they can recall that their pursuit was a worthy one, despite the lack of exciting scenery. So think of it like a test of sorts. The plateau is to weed out those who don't want it enough, or maybe they want it if something, if it won't hurt, if it's easy enough, if it doesn't take a long time, if I don't have to sacrifice, if it doesn't challenge my want and true desire. So your success relies heavily on your decision making right now, in this very window. Do you want it? How bad? So decide with your actions. This is a make or break moment in your path, and even though it feels like not much is happening, it's a big window. And in truth, the pursuits you make in life must be those of unbreakable commitment. I know that sounds really harsh or intimidating, so instead, just think of it like a state of being. It's not temporary. It is who you are. It is something that is inspired in you, and it comes from a very valuable and important place. So you should not fear that it's going to somehow fade in importance or relevance, or that it'll go away, or that you will have to give in to reality or the truth of you, who cannot and will not follow through. And I put that in air quotes, even though you can't hear that, because you're not just pursuing a result. You are deciding to be yourself. You're deciding on your life. You're acting as the person you are, just by practicing something that you want in your life, regardless of the result that it brings. And yes, the result's important. Yes, you want success, but the goal has value outside of that, outside of the result, no matter what happens. That goal has immense value to you as an individual because it has worth and meaning in how it defines you, because it's coming from somewhere sacred inside of you. And that has little to do with the big party at the end of this race. It's that practice of being your true self by running this race that is the greatest value. That is what your true measure of success is. That you are living your life as yourself. You are fulfilling your own destiny just by taking this action. So I think a better way to think of it is just in terms of how this practice defines you to you. So just think of it like in the phrase, I am the kind of person who blank. Instead of, I am going to have blank or I will overcome blank. It's, you're the kind of person that is being blank. Like that is your true goal. It's not to have something, it's to be something. So when you really decide to claim something about yourself, you decide it. And that is just a part of you as an entire person. It's part of your future, regardless of any if conditions. So the form it takes will shift in practical terms throughout your lifetime, but the pursuit of the desire always has merit, and it always lives in you. It's part of who you are. So if you're asking yourself if questions right now, then you're threatening to not believe yourself. And that's like starting to question if you really meant it or if you really felt it to begin with. And that's not fair to you. And that's coming from fear. It's coming from a fear of failure, or maybe a fear of success, or a fear of perceived long-ass plateau full of lots of bumps ahead. It's all of those perceptions are just bad habits, and they're self-protective habits, but they're false. It's all wanting to give up before you've actually started. You're already doing it. So don't listen to those thoughts. Because change is by default uncomfortable. It's not where we have been, so it feels like we're running way off course, where there aren't constant signposts reading, this way is to success. Oh, and here's your award. Because it's unforged. But don't be mistaken. It's not because you have a lack of progress or these are real signs of failure. What is stinging your confidence is fear and discomfort around this new foreign state of unknown. You're untethered. You're off the beaten path. So your fear is what makes you think you are lazy or incapable or untalented. And it's not a valid truth. The consistent part of the work behind your goal can get boring or tedious because that's when you have to simply keep doing it. It's not hard. It's not impossible. It's the thinking and buzzing about what if that feels like it is. In truth, the day-to-day is pretty straightforward, and if you're choosing this goal, you likely enjoy it. It likely rewards you. If you're not seeing the results you want, I would say grow some patience. And then also, if you're in need of some new approaches, treat that as its own separate issue. That's its own separate problem, and you can approach it with that awareness and that mindset. So don't let it confuse you about the truth of the path you began to forge at all. Because if you're in need of signposts, here's one for you. The dream is real. Because when you decide something of this in your life, you don't arrive at that place by accident. You are likely struck by something profound. A realization, maybe it was a want or a love, and though it scared you, you chose to jump. That is something that's rare and it's special. And it is true and real and valid and has weight and importance because it moved you. And it has weight and importance not only to you, but to the rest of the world. Because our passions And our loves are our gifts. And they come from a place that is so rare and special, and they're not accidental because they are only given to us. That is why they are very, very important to pursue. They aren't given to everybody. So if you aren't meant to be a plumber, don't be a plumber. We need you as something else. So if you're still running with me, here's another signpost. Keep going. Take a big gulp of Gatorade and run harder because you're on a plateau and you've got to keep your head on straight. So I'm going to give you a couple specific tools that might help in very particular kinds of cases. So I think I have 8 of them, and I will also post this in blog form as per usual. So the first one is I'm calling totes doable. So if you're getting overwhelmed and almost paralyzed by your goal, there's something you should be aware of called learned helplessness. And it's about focusing on something too far away because from here, it's impossible. So if you're a type A like I am, there's a very good chance you're making this goal impossible for yourself. Like your expectations are literally incapacitating you because you cannot achieve the goals you have set out. So for you, my tool is called, instead of a to-do list, you're going to call it a totes doable list. So your job is to create a possible focus on a day-to-day basis. Something that's hard, but is completely achievable. Basically, make it easy on yourself and keep every goal small and simple and never build too many on top of them. Like, so if you have this to-do list that's massive, keep it to a maximum of 3. So never put yourself in a situation that's going to be too difficult that it literally becomes impossible. So if you can't see how you're going to achieve your to-do list, reduce it down to the ones you know you can do. Number 2, this is another one for the type A'ers. Shout out to my peeps. Be consistent when you do the limbo. So in other words, it's really important to be consistent when you're pursuing a goal, but it's also really important to be flexible. Like if you're the type of person that has been really good at things or you strive to be perfect at things and are very efficient, it can be really, really tough when things don't go well. And for longevity, for success and longevity, it's the most important trait to have is flexibility. So you have to learn to basically roll with the punches and the ups and the downs and don't let them take you down with them. So it's just learning to bend and accept all hurdles and keep walking. So keep your pace more steady and don't give in to impulsive responses. Like, so when things don't go your way, you can't let your success be defined by that result. You just have to keep yourself, I guess, your center of gravity a little bit lower to the ground. Because every challenge is a lesson, and it's a lesson you needed to learn to get where you're going. So don't be so stiff that you fall apart and are taken down enough to give up your game. So bend and go easy on yourself. Number 3, this is for anyone that's kind of suffering from doubt or negative self-talk. And it's called deactivate your failure genes. And I mean like genes, like DNA. So if you believe, based on maybe results you've had, that you are a failure, you're not good at things, and maybe all things haven't gone your way in the last however long you've been trying to pursue your goal, I'm going to surmise that all of your failures thus far are likely the result of your mindset. So there are 2 ways of thinking. There are 2 kind of taught ways of thinking: a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. So fixed mindset means you think everything is kind of naturally born into you. So your skills stop at what your genes a lot. Conversely, growth mindset is like having an understanding that despite your genes, yes, they can help you. You'll have inclinations. But despite that, all of your success and your skill set will come from learning and practicing. So You can always better yourself. You can always grow. You can always sharpen your sword. So it's all about sticking to it when it comes to a growth mindset. So if you think in one of these ways, it's likely just the way your parents brought you up. Like, it's just even in their language. So you might have heard things like, you're a natural, or you're destined to be a blah, blah, blah. That would be like the fixed mindset. Or if you have a growth mindset, you might have been taught things like practice makes perfect, or you've got to study hard if you want to be a success. So it's just simple language dynamics. So if you're taking every failure in your life as a sign of your crappy born-in abilities, your thinking is likely getting in the way of the success, meaning you're just living out a self-fulfilling prophecy. So it's definitely something that's been brought up into you by your parents, but what's most important is it's learned. Your mindset is learned. So therefore, you can untrain it. So whenever you get down about your failures, remind yourself success is learned. And it comes down to growing yourself in the ways necessary. So the results you want will come from learning the right information from your mistakes and then putting those lessons to use. So working hard to grow yourself into what is required. I don't know if you like reading Malcolm Gladwell, but I do, and he believes that there's no such thing as genius. It's only those with an exceptional level of practice of learning. So they also make the most of any and all opportunities. That's what makes a genius. So don't allow yourself to believe in the failure genes and just stop whining and remind yourself failure is not a symptom of ability. It's a symptom of a lack of learning, and you have to practice with fervor. Moving on, next tool I'm calling get success minded. So your job right now is to think how successful, like-minded people think. And that means constantly pushing yourself harder. So empowered to find answers and learning what others like you need to know. So if you're not surrounded by inspiring, driven people who think and breathe the goal that you have, you've got to do double duty in creating an environment for yourself that supports your goals. Environmental enrichment is super important. So be active in your own support and inspiration. Because this is a lifestyle. It can't be a quick fix. You can't just, watch a documentary and feel like I can do anything. It's got to be something around you constantly that will expand and grow your world. So I'd suggest taking on as many external, inspiring influences as possible. So that means like a habit of listening to lots and lots of podcasts, going to lectures, being a person that buys books on the topic, being a person that talks about the topic, being a person that surrounds yourself with people that reinforce it to you. It's just vital to plug in as much of this kind of influence into your eyes and ears as possible. Because to keep your vision alive and make it a reality, you need clarity. And the more rubbish you're plugging into your brain, the harder it's going to be for you to keep up this race. Moving on, number 5. I'm calling this one $1 Million Focus. I've talked about focus before as the greatest currency you have, but truly it is, think of it as your property, think of it as made of money, and do not waste it. Do not burn it on things that do not deserve it. So a lot of your success will come from knowing what to say no to and what to shut out of your focus. So that includes naysayers, dismissive people, ignorant people, worry, and self-critical thinking, because that drains a whole lot of time and energy, and most importantly, focus. So don't drain your focus with things that are not aligned with your goals and your dreams. If they're not furthering you, they should not be getting your focus, period. Number 6, mini progress party. Woo! So this is like based on just the nature of commitment and consistency, you're more likely to continue things that show you have a chance of succeeding. So if you can't see any progress, you're probably going to want to give up. Like you have to be able to see your own growth somehow. And if you're not the type of person that likes spreadsheets, I don't. I hate numbers, all of them. So I need to have something more visual that's a reminder. So I like posting letters from people. I have like a binder full of them and it helps to read them. But that's like my progress. That's my sense of growth. So whatever it is, you need to have some sort of version of your success trajectory. So it's like whether, I don't know, in other careers, there are like awards or there are like a like button that shows how many people liked something. But you have to create your own version of that that's tied to your own success, related to your goal. So something practical but meaningful. So I highly recommend starting maybe a just daily journal or a progress scrapbook. So it's basically owning any and all successes, no matter how small, and celebrating them, valuing them, inviting them into your life. And whenever you get discouraged about where you're not, you just fill that focus with these reminders of your growth. So just journal about the things that you have learned, things that have inspired you, all of the growth towards your goal. That includes all the lessons. All right, the next one, number 7, fuel the foundation. Wish I had a funnier one for that. I hope you can remember it. I guess picture like gas being poured on top of the foundation of a house. It's kind of dark, but so if you're struggling for fuel, just think back to your foundation, kind of the basis of your goal. So what did it start with? What was your why? Like, what was your original inspiration? I feel like whatever it is, it's helpful to write it down or even just record yourself saying it to yourself. Because in the times when you can't figure out how to keep going or whether or not you want to give up, you need to start building on top of your foundation. You need to fuel that original why. So let's say your pursuit is related to art. Your job is to find more inspiration. So if your goal is a social endeavor, you need to reach out to lots of new people. So you just have to keep that foundation for your passion fed, because that's the core purpose that's going to propel you forward and guide you towards success. Because this pursuit is really about a love, a trust, and a commitment to yourself and what you value in your life. And that investment is something you have to maintain. So there will be many times in your life that you will be the only one who believes in yourself. And you'll have to stand up for yourself. My friend Mark Shostrom said that. So that's why it's really important to act in accordance with your values, your dreams, and what's important to you, what moves you in your life. Because it comes down to your purpose. And that will guide everything. So as you move forward and you weigh opportunities and you're faced with decisions to make, just make sure that they're aligned with that core value. Because when you choose in favor of that goal, just things get really simple. The path gets really clear, and you also get to know yourself better as you go. So just don't get distracted or worried about things that are not aligned with that purpose. If it's not serving it, it's not meant to be. Which brings me to part 8. And this is my most important tool for this plateau. Take action. So if there's anything that is the key to success, it's taking action. No matter what it is, just do something in favor of your goal. And don't get trapped by thoughts. Do anything. Just make it concrete and invite inspiration and progress from any and all directions. So in closing, this is a time, I know it's difficult to be on a plateau, but it's a test to show you that you can overcome all of the ups and downs and totally flat, uneventful, boring parts to come, because that's what it takes to be a success. But don't worry, it's not hard, and you're already doing it. The hardest part is not listening to fear and continuing to run even when you're uncomfortable and no one is cheering you on. Running and loving it even when there's no trophy and you get foxtails stuck in your socks because you are the kind of person who forges this kind of path. And know that you arrived upon this path for a very good reason. So whatever it is you're attempting to pursue in your life, know it has value. And though maybe you're not feeling the success or truth behind the purpose right now, know that the plateaus are gifts in disguise because they demand we demonstrate that we really, really mean it. And sometimes they show us we need to tie our shoes and run a little faster. Because once you say, I want it bad, it's as good as yours. So stick to it, peeps. And don't give up. And if you liked this, please review me on iTunes or maybe like me on SoundCloud. And if you have any requests for other topics, please write to me because I love topics and they help me a lot. Happy New Year. And smile.